slow and I don't back to do it all. One more party, one more special occasion. Do it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, holidays and weekends. We can have one more party. There's more hell we should be raising. One more party now, one more party tonight.
We did the daisy. It's a 6x6, and that I have decided to take mine beyond the 6-inch canvas, and I just wanted to show you what I've done with mine, and I'm hoping that when we get 4x12, no, we're having problems today. I've decided to take my acrylics just beyond the 6x6 and do them on a 12x12, and this is today's that we're doing, which is the fuchsia, and that was last week's that we did, which was the daisy. And you can see that in order to just have a cheap hobby crafting places sell them, but you also get them in kids shops. They tend to come in packs of 3 like this, and of course, you know, select your size. I chose the smaller one. I'm kind of regretting that now. I think it might have looked better in that size, but I'll go with that. And that's the daisy. That was last week's tutorial, and I've just put some very blurred daisies in the background there, pushing them back. So that's 1 and 2 of my series, and I'll be adding to that with next week's one when we get round to that. So for today, why you would gesso and the benefits of gessoing. So if you get a chance, have a look at that. It's a very short, 5-minute long thing, but it is worth gessoing, I feel. You get a much easier surface to work on, and you get a more professional look. This is the sort of background that we're aiming for today. When you have a look at the picture itself, these are the colours that are in it. There's quite an acidic green, there's a tealy colour, there's a green, and there's just the odd hint of this sort of colour in the background, suggesting that there are other fuchsias hanging up that we just can't focus on enough to see. So that's what we're aiming to get for the background before we go on to actually painting the flower. So the first thing that we want to do is paint the entire background green, and I'm just going for this green again. It's the one we used for the daisies. It's my go-to green. So it's just all over, paint all over. Dip your brush in the water, just dip it in, you're not soaking it, dab it off, and then load your brush. Load it quite well, one side, turn it over, load the other side. Make sure that you've got a nice amount of paint on there. And then there we go, we'll just start. I've got too much water on this brush, but it won't really matter because this is the background of the background, if you like. I'm going to put all the teals and yellows and other colours on top of this. This is just a background to that. So cover your canvas completely, fairly evenly if you can, although as I say, we'll be going back over it, so it's not, just make sure it's got green on it basically. And do your sides. If you've got gallery wrap canvases, they're the ones that are quite deep, that go over wood. make sure that you do your edges, because it looks awful if you're hanging them up and you happen to see them from the side and you can see your white bit all around. So make sure that you paint your sides. Just gives it a nice finish for the sake of completeness. So that's that. Okay, let Bobby out, please. I'm just doing the edges now. And then I'm going to introduce you to a new brush that I've bought this week that I've found very, very useful in getting these backgrounds. These backgrounds where they're really out of focus have become fashionable through photography, where the photographer is focusing his camera on the subject and allowing the background to be very out of focus. And it's called bokeh, B-O-K-E-H. And now artists have started using that because it's very fashionable. And it looks very nice. I like it. I find it quite appealing. It focuses all your attention on the subject of your painting, and gives you a nice, interesting background that's got something to say. You know, in this case, it's saying there are other fuchsias around, but you can't see them clearly. So that's that. We just need to dry that off, and then we'll start putting our bokeh background on. So excuse me while I just dry this off. Okay, I think we're there. I'll just draw your attention to something interesting that happened there. I tested that to see if it was dry before it was dry, and what happened was it stuck to my finger and came away. And if you hadn't dried it properly and went in with another coat of paint, that is exactly what would happen then. You'd start to pull up the background layer. So make sure that your background layer is properly dry before you start adding another coat of paint onto it. I mean, that's a good tip for wherever you are in your painting. Make sure that if you're painting over something, make sure it's dry. So we need to get some colours out then. So we're talking about teal, definitely. Sennelier Abstract call this turquoise. We need some, probably magenta, I think, for this sort of colour. And I'm actually going to use golden this time, only because it's so highly pigmented. It really is. And I don't want to add too much to it, just a little hint. So I'm going to add a little bit of golden quinacridone magenta. That's more than enough on my palette there. I'm also going to add some yellow, so I can mix that through my green and get a more acidy, this sort of colour, acidy lemony green. So I'll add that over there beside my green, which has now been depleted. And I think that's probably just about all the colours we need, really. Right, so let's make a start. I'm not going to copy this. It's unnecessary. All we need is to get this lovely sort of bokeh background done. It doesn't matter that it's turquoise here and here. However it turns out will be fine. It'll look lovely. So this is my new acquisition, this brush, this week. You might have seen I mentioned it on my Facebook page. It's called a Deerfoot Stippler. It's by Jackson's. They're quite difficult to get hold of, these Deerfoot stipplers. In fact, I could only find it at Jackson's. It's kind of on an angle. Can you see that? It's on an angle, and I guess that's why they call it a deerfoot, because it looks a bit like the foot or hoof or whatever of a deer. But it's very good for what we are using it for today. So let's make a start with the turquoise. So just pull a bit of turquoise off, load the brush up by stippling into it, and let's start here. So you just literally put it down, stipple out away from the edges, from the centre, keep stippling, and as your paintbrush loses its charge, it will become thinner and thinner, of course. But this isn't set in stone. You can always go back over things, add more, put another colour over the top. It's just basically what we're doing at the moment is getting some colour of the colours that we want onto the canvas, and then we'll have a look and see if we're happy with it. So I think we might add another turquoise bit up here maybe. You see now why it's quite important to have a green background, well, or a turquoise background or whatever. You need a background to stipple on, because it covers, and I mean you can make it cover even more by keep stippling over it, but it's good to have a background colour that's shining through and saves you a bit of work stippling as well, really. So there we are, we've got two sections of the turquoise and maybe one down here. So you have to sort of keep in your mind where the fuchsia is going to be placed, and for example you don't want to put the magenta right next to there. You won't see it, it won't pop up off the background. So try and keep your magenta away from where you think the actual fuchsia will be. So that's looking nice. So I'm just going to mix up some of this very bright yellow through this green. I'm just going to mix it on the brush because it doesn't really matter how well mixed it is. It's probably better if it isn't very well mixed. I'm just going to do this bit in the middle here, stippling back over the turquoise to give us a nice loose effect. Blur those edges. You see we've got little specks of yellow in that as well, which look quite nice, look quite natural. And you can do this for any picture. It really, it doesn't have to be just flowers. Cityscapes, for example, just blur the backgrounds and put some lights coming out. Right, and then we'll do a bit more yellow and green. Make it a bit more yellow this time and put it up here. That's a very nice acidic colour, stands out nicely. There's just a bit there that's not too well covered. So this is very relaxing. There's nothing at all strenuous or stressing, I don't think, about this. You can't really get it wrong. If you get it wrong, just stipple over it. You got anybody on with us?
Yes, Paula, Mustard Tree Market.
Oh, hi Paula and Malia, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a bit of a stressful day. So I'm just going to, my brush is still dirty and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. And I'm just going to dip into the magenta. I don't really want masses on there. In fact, it's not a whole brush full. And I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to put this in there and across here. And go back into this one before it dries. So you see we've got that nice magenta colour that we'll be using later on to do the fuchsia itself, but we're bringing it into the background. It's a fuchsia, we know it's a fuchsia, but we can't actually see it. I'm going to put some more turquoise down here, because I think I've gone slightly mad with the magenta. So I'm just going to add a little bit more turquoise down here, which is fine. You can see the magenta through it, which is as you would in nature. You see things through things. That's fine. So back to what is really the base colour, which is green. So we can alter it, of course, by adding different amounts of yellow to it to give it more lemony yellow, less lemony yellow, or just a plain green. So I'll add quite a bit of yellow to my brush. And we'll try this bottom corner because it's looking a bit bare right through to the canvas. Let's try and make it fairly random. You know, remember nature rarely is symmetrical or whatever, it tends to be random. I hope you get yourselves a deerfoot stippler. It sounds such a niche sort of thing, you know, when would you use it? But in actual fact it has lots of uses. I haven't got time on this one to show you all of its uses, but it does do lovely grasses and foliage like that. It does trees, hedges. It's a really useful brush. But you know, you really have to look after your brushes. And maybe next week's Miss Paintalot's painting pointer, I think that's what it's called, will be about cleaning your brushes and keeping your brushes in good order, because they're expensive. They are expensive. You don't want to be replacing them all the time. That's another thing about gessoing your canvas. If you gesso your canvas, you're taking some of that roughness off. And by doing that, you're adding a long time in life to your brushes. You know, you imagine you're going backwards and forwards with a brush on a rough surface. It's like sandpaper. Would you sandpaper your brushes? I don't think so. So, gesso your canvases, protect them. We've got a little bit of canvas down here that's showing through that I don't want. Can you see though how we're getting this effect? I think it's beginning to look quite interesting now. What do you think, Mr. Handyman?
Very nice.
He sends such a small wage as well, honestly. Wage, he says? What wage?
Help.
Are you being held hostage? Right, so what should we do with this top corner? Well, I mean, that could be the top corner, it doesn't matter, but looking at it that way, we've actually got this stem, stalky, stemmy thing. So I don't really want to put magenta up there if I can avoid it, because it's going to get caught up in this. So that's probably it for the magenta, I think. I might have overdone it a bit. This is the joy of this, honestly. You fiddle for ages, and it's just kind of therapeutic. I like it a lot. I'm going to go for quite a bright colour up here, and then we'll be able to see that stalky thing. You guys think you might like to have a go at this? It's lovely to do, and then once you've done it, you're halfway there, because all you've got to do then is your flower. Let's go for a little bit green in this yellow. Come back down here over this turquoise a bit. I've got quite a large splodge of it there. You can blend with brushes, of course you can, for heaven's sake. You know, you can do it, no problem. Well, I say no problem. This is just a nicer effect, I think. There's a million tutorials on YouTube about blending acrylics, because it is quite a dodgy thing to do, because acrylics dry so quickly. Whereas this, it can dry, you can go back over it, you can go back over it 100 times. I think we're about there, really. I think that kind of looks okay to me. As I say, you can keep going as you wish, but I think we're about there. A bit of canvas showing through there. I'm just going to put a bit of turquoise in there for a laugh. Just lighten that up a little bit. If you are watching this and you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. It then means that you can join in the chat on the page, which is great. It's much more of a community, and I like that. Okay, so I think I'm quite happy with that. I think that's nice. I could mess around with it much longer if I wanted to, and get something a bit more probably refined like this one. But this is fine. This is good. Right, so I'm going to put my brush in water, give it a good rinse out. I really want to look after this brush. I don't want anything happening to it. So give it a really good rinse out, making sure that you hit the bottom of the pot to rinse out all the paint. And then dry it off on a towel. See how much paint's still left in there? That's fine, let's get it all out. Dry it off on a towel and then leave it. I've finished with this now, so I'm just going to leave it on the table like that. And just before I do, I'm just going to reform the shape of the brush and leave it like that. The problem with some brushes is if you just put them in the water and leave them all the time that you're painting, of course they're sitting on the edge and it'll crack them, and then the next time that you go and you want a straight line, you won't be able to get one and you'll have to buy a new brush. So just rinse the paint out of your brush when you finish, dry it off, lie it horizontally to dry, and that way you'll keep your brushes good. Right, okay, is this dry-ish? I'll just give it a quick blast. Yeah, okay. Right, so we need to trace this onto here. And I'll show you what I do. Actually, I'll show you with the masking tape. I'll show you what I do to help me if I need to go back at any stage. This is fine, I'll put that on there and I'll trace through it, and I probably will not need to ever put this back down again. But let's assume that I trace it out and I only do half of it, and then I do something else on the bottom, put some other foliage in that's coming in or whatever, and I need to trace this again. I need it in exactly the same place as it was before. So put it down where you want it, which is pretty much there. Put your masking tape over the image. Make sure you can still see your image. And then attach it like a hinge. So that's now going to work like a hinge. See? Can trace it now. And then if we put anything else in the background, if we decide we don't like that background, we want to change it a little bit, so it's going to go over the tracing that we would have done, doesn't matter. This is hinged, it will go back down in exactly the same place as we had it the first time. So there's a little tip for you. So using the Surral paper that I showed you last time, put it down, put your image over the top that you want to trace out, get a pencil or a pen or whatever, go around your edges, easily peasily, isn't it? Quite nice, this bit. Feel accomplished when you take it away and you've got a perfect flower. Right, it's just something that I want to tell you. When I painted this out on my 12-inch canvas, this part I traced from my tracing from a photograph, and it didn't look right, so I've had to extend it and bring it down. If you have a look at the picture, you'll see this looks like it's not going to the edge, which looks fine in that photograph, but in a picture, in a painting, it didn't look right, so I've altered it. So I'm just saying to you, you might wish to alter yours. And what I'm going to do is bring it down just off there and then start following the line. Join it up just outside, similar to this one. This one's just outside the bottom purple part. So that's that. Oh, I don't need that. Just draw your, what are they, stamens are they called? I don't know.
Yep.
Stamens? Excellent.
Polleny bits.
Polleny bits, yeah. Draw them in. I mean, you can freehand these. You don't have to copy them, absolutely. But it's good to get an idea of where they might go. So let's just have a check. Yeah, I think that's it. There we are. Now you see what I mean more clearly now. That's not what I wanted. I want that to come up round here. So I'll just use my pastel. Let's just see what I did on the 12-inch one. Yeah, I brought it right up to the top, so I'm going to do that again. So that comes from there up there like that. That's right, that's fine. We'll just rub that other line that we've got out so it doesn't confuse us. While we're on the subject of making marks on obviously this paint wasn't dry and it stuck to my paper. As you can see, I've got holes in it. Never mind it. If you're making marks like this, outline marks or whatever, this is a pastel pencil. Don't use an ordinary HB, 2B, whatever it is. Don't use it. the paint won't cover the pencil. It won't cover graphite. It'll shine through no matter what you do. So use a pastel pencil, and that way you won't have that problem. Right, so now we move on to the flower. That's a shame that I've wrecked that background.
You haven't.
It's looking a bit sparse in places.
Not on there.
All right. So, moving on to the flower.
As you say, you can overpaint later.
You can overpaint as many times as you like. That is the joy of acrylic paint. You never need to think, oh no, I've done that, I can't rectify it. You can rectify anything. Just paint over it. It's just paint, as they say. Right, so these bits here they're not entirely magenta. That's magenta, and you can see they're quite a reddy colour. So I'm going to add some red to the magenta to give us a nice vibrant colour for those. So there's some red down. And you may remember last week I suggested to you that you use a little painter's knife, artist knife, palette knife. Take a little bit of this magenta, because remember, as I said, it's very, very highly pigmented. Let's just start with a little bit first and see where we get to. Need a little bit more than that. You do want this fairly well mixed in together. It's not like with the Deerfoot Stippler where it didn't matter. This kind of does matter. That red's just absorbing this magenta. That's it, I'm kind of getting there now. I still don't think it's pink enough. Although I'm not sure actually. Yeah, might be alright. And no, I'm not content. I'm going to add some more magenta. While we're on the subject of colours, these golden colours, which are lovely, creme de la creme, I think, probably, they have this system on them at the top here. And what it is, they have 3 black lines on the tube itself, and then they employ, apparently, students to go and just put one swish of the paint over the 3 lines, and that will help you see how opaque or transparent it is. You see, with this dioxazine purple, you can't really see the black lines, but with this you can see them very, very clearly, which tells me that this colour is transparent, very transparent. That was just an aside, but you might find it useful at some stage. Okay, I think we're getting there. We're getting some nice. It's got a nicer tone to it now. Okay, let's go with that then. I haven't got any kitchen towel today, so make sure you wipe it straight away, otherwise it'll set and that will be the end of your painter's knife. So I'm going to use these 2 brushes. One is a 1/2 inch angle shader, it's angled like that, and the other is a 1/4 inch angle shader. They are both De La Rowney, the System 3. I haven't come across a brush as good as that for what I want to use it for. So just to get the main bit on, I'm going to use the 1/2 inch. So load your brush up, backwards and forwards. I'll start with this one at the top. I've got a lot of paint on this brush. This is what angle shaders are good for, getting into little corners that you would find difficult with a flat brush, and then it makes it nice and easy to follow the shape down. Don't worry if you can still see your white border that you traced on. That rubs off very, very easily when you're finished. Blimey, I've got so much paint on this brush. But never mind, that's fine.
Wipe it off if it's too much.
I could, but I'm using it at a great rate of knots. I think I'll be alright. It's just like last week, really, with the daisy, just paint by numbers, pretty much. Follow around. I've made this a bit of a repository, actually, over on the other petal, just because I had too much.
Get your hand in it, so be careful.
Oh, I'm getting my hand in it. Yeah, do that. So just spread this out within the lines. This is even easier than painting by numbers, because they give you numbers and then they put like two numbers together in one thing, and you're supposed to mix it, but you don't know how much of either thing. This is just easy. This is easier than anything. And every week we're learning new skills that you can take onto your own paintings further down the line, or even now. I had a lovely picture posted by Susan Hall this week, who's trying and practicing and really making progress. Don't forget, we have a competition over on the Miss Paintalot. Could you get me a wet wipe, please? Miss Paintalot acrylic group, Miss Acrylic Paintalot, I should say. Post your picture. It's got to be an acrylic picture, and then people vote on it by liking it or loving it or whatever, and then on a Monday we see who's got the most likes or loves, and it gets made into the cover picture for the next week. So if you've got a picture that you like or you're proud of, and why wouldn't you be, post it on that post, and you never know, you might get your painting as the cover for next week. That's on my Facebook group, which is Miss Acrylic Paintalot. Right, so we've kind of done those. I'm not sure if they won't need another coat, but that's fine. We'll leave them as they are for the moment, and we'll move onto these pieces here. Now they are much more of a purpley colour, which is here. I was showing it to you before. It's this dioxazine purple. The underneath part of the flower is pretty pure purple. The front bits of the skirt are obviously in life the same purple, but they've got light catching them, so they're showing to be much lighter coloured. So before we put any white into that, we'll do the background. We'll do the inside bit. For that I'll use this little 1/4 inch angle shader. And once again, paint by numbers. I'm not too sure that that's just not a little bit too dark. I don't know if it's reading that as purple. Yeah, it might be. Is that reading as purple?
Yeah, I think so. Top bits might need to be a bit lighter when you compare it with the other one.
Yeah, it's like that. So once again, as I say, it's kind of painted by numbers, chubby. Follow the line down, which is very easy if you have one of these brushes. It really is. Follow it to there. That's where it it ends for us. Now this sort of middle bit here, when you have a look at it, is kind of, it's pink mixed up with that purple, and if it's not that colour I don't think that you're going to be able to see these stamens dropping down, so we'll colour this, paint this in. And then I'm just going to grab a little bit of the colour that we used for this and mix it up, and I might need a tiny drop of white. You see, once you get your background in, it's I'm going to need more than that for the other petals as well. It's easy, you've done the hard work then. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this dioxazine, a little bit of the colour that I used for the top petals, and a little bit of white. Let's see what that gives us. No, it needs to be darker than that. And again, it's a lovely purple, that, isn't it?
It is delicious.
Purplicious. More of that. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that. I think that's all right. So I'm just going to wipe my brush off, nip my brush in the towel, and then load it up. And this is just for this part here. We will be going back over this part with some pink and stuff, but you won't be able to see it if we haven't got any of this colour down. So this is just to sort of highlight what will be the stamens. Flatten it down, finish it as the circle of the skirt there. That's right, isn't it? That's what they call fuchsia, a bit skirt. A bit of skirt. Right. Didn't mean to say that, it just came out. So there we are, we've got the purple underneath part of the skirt, and as you can see, they've gone over that. They've gone over nature. Nature's gone over it, made it lighter so as we can actually, when we put the stamens in, we can see where they're coming from. So now the thing to do is put these in, which is going to be once again this sort of mixture but a little bit lighter, and I want plenty of it because there's nothing worse than running out of paint. It's horrible. We've got plenty on the plate, so might as well use it. Brushes were not intended for this, I can tell you. And a bit of white. Let's see how light that is. No, I think it needs to be a bit lighter. You know, fuchsias come in loads of different colours. Pinks, white. There's a lovely, really pretty one called Ballerina that's like a pink and a cream, I think, and just gorgeous. So you don't have to slavishly follow this. Have a look online, see what colour you fancy doing yours in, and do that. Don't forget though, it might affect the background colours. If you're doing it pink and white, you might want to add a pink and white colours to the background. Right, just get most of that off there, and then we're just going to do these. Oh yeah, that's a nice, good, vibrant colour. Oh, the dog's been quiet today, so the cat's decided to have a go. You don't want to leave the white lines here on this bit because when you rub them away you'll see straight through to the background, so try and cover up the white lines on this where it's meeting up with something else. There we are, try and keep it fairly smooth. you can really tell that this board's been gessoed, because it's much easier getting lines on it than it would be were it not gessoed. So just follow that up there. Just a bit more paint on my brush. It's always easier with paint on your brush. I know you think you'll have more control if you haven't, you know, if you've just got a wee bit on there, but it's easier when you've got paint on it, like a fair bit. So that's that. I think is all right. I think we're quite happy with that. And now it's time to put the other one in to match. If you want to join in the chat on these lives, just subscribe to the channel and then chat away. Leave your comments, your questions, whatever. I mean, you can of course do that after the live, but you can do it during the live if you subscribe to the channel. I'm just going to leave the tiniest of lines here, because actually that has a shadow on it and I want to be able to see where exactly I'm going to put it. So just leave a very hint of where that shadow is going to go. Don't be afraid to move your canvas around. I mean, the time when you can't is when you're doing a sort of 60-inch square canvas. It becomes a bit difficult moving it around. But with a 6-inch canvas, move it around. You know, I'm left-handed and I find certain strokes easier. You're right-handed, you'll find others. So, yeah, the dog's joined us. Hello. Right, so that's us just about finished with that. I think we're looking all right. I think that's looking all right. What I'm going to do now is put this shadow in here, and it also has a shadow on the top of here and down there. If you have a look, you can see just on the top of there, and a big shadow under here. So this big shadow under here is the dioxazine purple. Now, I showed you last time about washes and sending things back through putting a wash on them. Today I want to show you another way of doing that, and it's using glazing medium. This is De La Roni. Every company does their own brand. I believe that it is just the acrylic that the paint is made from, but it's obviously got no colour in it. And so it keeps the integrity of the paint where water doesn't, but it thins it out. So we'll just add a little bit of that. Oh, I'm going to have to remember which is which here. We'll add a little bit of that to our palette. I like these jars like this, and then whatever you've got left on your palette you can get back in, so you're not wasting anything. Clean your palette knife off. And now I'm going to mix a little bit of the dioxazine purple, not that much, through a bit of the glazing gel. Now, glazing gel dries like the very devil. It dries so quickly. So don't mess around, get on with it.
Sound advice.
Yeah, get on with it. I think that'll be all right. I think we're fine. I'll just take the worst off, pick some up. So this is going to go round here. Down to here, and then we're just going to pull it away like that. So you're going to get a nice shadow. There, see what I'm doing? Just touching my ends of my bristles to there, and then just pulling it away. And because I've got glazing medium in it, it's not as dark as this, which is the same colour, diopsazine purple. Now we've got a little bit of shadow there, but first of all let's complete this. We've got some shadow here on the front part of the skirt, so I'll just add that now. This is beginning to dry already. It really is a devil's own to dry. So I'm just going to give it a spritz with just a demister bottle. In fact, I'm going to spritz my whole palette. So yeah, back to a little bit of colour along here. Might be too much actually. That's better. Nice. I've got too much on there. Let's just see what I can take off. I'm just going to go back and put some of this on again. I don't like that. I don't like what we've achieved, what I've achieved. I've mucked it up.
No, you haven't.
But you see the joy of acrylic. All fixed. All fixed. So never panic. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. Only people of a certain age will get that. I am a person of that age. I'm just going to use a round brush here. I think I might get a better job with that. All right? You all right, Mr. Honeyman?
Oh yes.
You having a nice time?
Like Georgia B, I'm mesmerised.
Georgia B! Hello! Yeah, I think that's better, don't you, with a round brush? You get it's a bit more refined. I mean, we want some shadow on it because it obviously has some movement on this. But I think what we had before was a bit over the top. So there we are. I think I'm quite happy with that now. So our next problem, no, it's not a problem. Our next task is to put shadow on these, on the three things, leaves, petals, thanks, which are a sort of a crimsony colour, which is this colour. This is alizarin crimson, also by Golden. I'm just going to squirt a tiny bit out. Once again, it's one of these really highly pigmented colours. Be careful with it. And I'm going to mix it through. I'm going to mix it through this glazing medium. Thanks. Pick some up on your brush. Have a look where it is, where we're going. We're going along here. Let's make sure that you can see that. Maybe. Oh, go lower here.
Pick it up so people can see it as well when you've done it, because we're not zoomed in enough.
Alright. Okay, so I'm just going along there like that, just to add some bit of life to this petal. I think that's all right. This one, yep, it needs some life too. And the top one. It comes down both sides. I think I've picked a bit of white up there, and actually I'm not sorry about that, I quite like it. Make that a bit more prominent. Right, so I'm hoping, I really hope, that you can see it's difficult, but there is shading on there. And there's shading on here. So all we really need now is a little bit of pink on the tops of some of these petals, which is just a nice quick little thing to do. It's really I hope some of you have a go at this. I'll put the picture that I've used up on Miss Acrylic Paintalot's Facebook page, so you can blow it up to whatever size you want. You can copy it and blow it up to whatever size you want. I'm going to take just a bit of that crimson, mix it into this white to give me a pink, a light white pink, which that is a nice version of there. Don't use pure white, it's too harsh. Use a bit of pink, and this comes along here and just sort of peters out there. It's just a highlight. And this one, it's got a little bit up here. Once again, it's just a highlight. Don't go mad. And this one's down this side here. There we are. It gives, with the colouring that we just put on, the shading, and that colour that we have, the light pink, it gives the idea that the petals are curling a bit more. So now we've got to look at the stamens. It's here that you want a good brush, and I would really recommend that you have that you buy one of those 1/4" angle shaders that I've said. Yeah, a good straight line with this, with that, and also this, which is called a liner. They're called all sorts of different things: script liners, riggers. This is just a liner. Actually, it's not the longest in the world. There are longer ones than these. But the idea is that, I mean, you look at that and you think, how can you paint a straight line? Because, you know, but I'll show you when we get to the exactly how you can do it. In the meantime, let's set sail with our, see that rigger brush, and now we're setting sail, which is too good. With our 1/4" angle shader. And
why is it called a rigger?
Because I used to paint the rigging of ships with it, which for that you need a really, really fine line. That's what I believe. I don't know. I'm only passing on information I've sort of heard. Might be not that at all. Right, so that's what we had for the, and this is the white. So let's mix up something that looks quite bright pink, isn't it? If you would like the chance to win this, I'm going to do this as a giveaway. This is a giveaway, guys. Again, I always give away what I've been painting on the lives. Go over to my Miss Acrylic Paintalot page, and I'll put a post on which you'll have to say me too. And if you do, and I pull your hat, or Siri or whatever says then I'll post it to you. And it can be anywhere in the world that you like. It's not exclusive to the UK. So I'm starting doing these, what do you call them again? Stamens. I'm having a right job remembering the name. I don't think that's quite dark enough. You can really tell this board has been gessoed. I'd be having a devil's own trying to get these lines in without it being gessoed. So there's another one that comes down here, quite close to that. Oh, there were two then in that case. I made my line too thick. And one here. And there's one there. And I think there's one behind that. Comes down to there. So I'll just fill in those. The end bits where I guess is where the thingamajig is. Pollen. You know when you get a block on something, just like one thing, and you just can't get past it all day. Like the other day, it was Tuesday and I was convinced it was Wednesday. And all day long, I thought it was Wednesday. No matter what I did, it was Wednesday. Anyway, so you can see what I've done. I've put my 1/4" angle shader flat down, haven't applied any pressure at all, just put it down and dragged it back. That's all I've done. And you can see that I think that's quite a nice effect. But now let's move on to using the rigger. And I think we probably need a slightly darker colour on there just to highlight it a little bit. So what you do with your rigger or your liner or whatever you want to call it, this water's now manky and I wouldn't recommend that you use dirty water, but it's what I've got. So, because if you've got dirty water and you're going into white or any colour, you're going to take that dirt with you, so you're going to muddy your colour up. Anyway, get some water on your brush, on your liner brush. Mix it into the paint that you want to use. Need quite a bit of it to loosen it up. That's it. And then when you've got it nice and watery like that, roll your liner like that in the paint and lift it off and keep rolling it so as you've got a really nice point. And then you should have a very nice thin line to use. And because it's quite a long brush, all the filaments keep hold of the paint, so you've got quite a lot of paint to work with for quite a while. It takes a while. Don't press down on it either. Don't apply any pressure. I'm just going to go up here and pull some of this down over the tops of these, because that's what our picture looks like when you look at it. When you look at the picture, what nature's done for us, it's sort of a bit blended up in there. So that's what I've done with ours. I've blended it a bit. I think I'm quite happy with that. I might add a little bit of white into that and just come back in. We're nearly there, guys. Nearly there. I'm just going to add a bit of white into that. So I've got a mid-tone pink, if you like, which I like a bit better than the original pink. I'm just going to add a bit of water to that so that I can pick it up on my rigger. Roll it to a point. Roll it right to a point and lift it as you do it. And then back in, and we'll just go down there. Really is fine enough to write your name with, sign your name with when you're finished. or do very, really thin lines. You will get the hang of it. You will. You definitely will. It's one of those things. Once you've learned how to load it and roll it like that, that's it. You've cracked it. I'm just going to put some of this shade in on this side of the biggest stamen, like that. Like that, and I think that's okay. We'll add some white to the very tips of them, as you can see in the picture. I'll just rinse that off. So we're going to be using white. Running out of room on my very untidy palette today. Get some water in that. You see, it's really watery. If you've got Golden, I'm sure other companies do as well. Golden do what they call liquid acrylics. It's not airbrush acrylics, although they probably work. It's little bottles of liquid acrylic, and they work perfectly for this sort of thing. Absolutely perfectly. So let's just put a little bit of white on there, on each one. There's a little one there, and there's a little one there. There's one there, and one there. And then we need some on here. See how much paint it holds for a little brush? It's amazing, isn't it, really? I think that's not too bad. Right, okay. What else do we need?
Stemmy McStem.
Stemmy McStem, indeed. Forgot all about him. Right, so we're going to need glazing again, because it's kind of in the background, isn't it? I'm just going to draw on where that is with my pencil here. So it kind of comes along like that. Then there's a bit of a bump. And so it's Sunday tea time over here in the UK, and I'm thinking about my Sunday dinner, which actually today is minced beef and potatoes, which is very nice. It works better if you put the transfer paper in. Savoury. Put the transfer paper in.
Is it dry paper then?
Yeah, we're dry this time. Right, let's try that again with the paper in. Yeah, as I was saying to you, I'm having minced beef with onions, mashed potato, and carrots and cauliflower. Well, that to me sounds quite nice. I know Paula's probably heaving at the moment, but to me it sounds nice. Right, let's see. Yay, hooray. So that's our stem, stalky stuff. We're going to need another bit of glazing, as I say. Next time I will introduce you to stuff called Extender. I'll explain that to you then, but until then you can look forward to Extender next week, or whenever we do our next...
That's what we all need.
Extender. Say nothing. What do you think, girls? Say nothing, say nothing. I can't say anything at all to Mr. Handyman this week because look what he bought me for Valentine's Day. Look at that. Isn't that so pretty? I can't show you into the light because it's too far away. Right, okay. You need your brush. Oh, my brushes are really dirty. What have I got that's quite clean? I use this little fill bit, it'll be fine. And I need some of this crimson-y colour. And probably a bit of that, actually. That's probably nearer the mark. Is anybody talking to us? No.
Occasionally.
Are you responding back suitably?
Yes.
Good.
Susan was just saying how stunning your daisy was. I'm just reminding her not to forget to enter this week.
Ah, yeah. Is that Susan?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, her wisteria is really good. Have a look on the page at Susan's wisteria. I mean, it's such a good effort. It really is. Not only that, but I adore wisteria. As you know, those people that follow me, I've done, of late, a couple of wisteria canvases. It seems a bit wrong that this is pink, but if you think about it, if you cast your mind to a fuchsia, they are pink. They're sort of pink, very soft, easy snappable things. There we are. Right, so I'm going to have to clean off this pork-range brush because I need to add some bit of shade. Oh, hello, got some light. Oh, that's better. Why didn't we think of that earlier? Is that better? Is that better, people? I think it's better. Seems brighter.
Yeah, we're zooming in a bit closer, but
Oh, it's a bit glary as well.
can you push it forward a little bit and we can zoom in a bit more? Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm just going to load some white up here. Just drag it through that colour that we've just made the stem with. So it's just a paler version of what we've just used. And I'm just going to go, the light's obviously coming from the top because that's why these are lighter. So I'm just going to go along the top of this, here, around here. You know, if you really want to do this and you want to watch it back, don't forget you can pause at any stage. But there's nothing in here, you know, I've really gone out of my way to make this as easy as possible. All I'm doing here is dragging down that colour that I've just put on. It's dragging it down so it gives us a bit of 3D-ness, a bit of shape. And when it's dry, as I say, just take a rubber. These rubbers are the best sort, the plasticky ones. This is a De La Roni, but
Stadler Mars.
Stadler Mars plastic, yeah, that's right. They don't leave any residue. My dog has jumped. Oh, he's decided to eat some crackers. He is crackers. Yeah, as I say though, this will remove all your lines like this one and any one that you've got, and it'll look great. Right, I think we're kind of about there, guys. What do you think?
You zoom in a little.
I like the background, although it did get a bit mauled because it wasn't quite dry. But overall, I think that's okay. I'll just remind you once again what I did with the daisy from last week and the fuchsia from this week. That's this week's fuchsia, which you can see I've done on a much larger format. I've done that on a 12 by 12, and these are a bit lighter. It's just the way I've mixed it, it's just a little bit different. And I've included these two strips down the left and right hand side, which I achieved with one of these, a smaller one than that, but I don't know where it went. Oh, there it is. And every time I used a colour on this, I used it on the outside, and so randomly picked up all of the colours that are actually in the painting. And you can see I've done that same bokeh background on there, and that's that 12 by 12. I also did the daisy in a 12 by 12. Once again, because I want it to look like a set when they're finished, I've done the same thing here. Every time I used a colour, I put it on the background, on the edges. And for the background, I've used it's bokeh just the same. They're out of focus, but the daisies that are out of focus. And I used the Deerfoot stippler for that as well. So I think by the time we get 4 of these, I think they're going to look quite nice, really. Where are we there? Yeah. So next week was going to be a lily or a pansy, but I'm kind of I'm thinking I want to do a hibiscus. They're so bright and cheerful, and relatively easy, which is good. That's what we're aiming for. So next week, number 3 of the flower series, which might get extended to 6 actually, but number 3 is the hibiscus. If you want to win this Fuchsia that I've just done, I will put a post over on my Miss Acrylic Paintalot group, and all you will have to do is, I'll clearly state what it's for, and all you'll have to do is just write "me please" underneath, and your number will be selected randomly by Siri. And until I see you next, I'm really grateful to you for sticking with me throughout this. I appreciate the lighting isn't absolutely tip-top. We'll see what we can do before the next live to sort that out. But I've enjoyed this. I think we've actually achieved something that most people would be proud of. And you've seen me do it. It's very, very, very achievable. So get your brushes out, get painting. See you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Me and the boys was sitting around drinking, we was talking about things that we was thinking, when all of a sudden what comes out of Bill's mouth? Said I'm getting old and fat and slow, and I don't recover like I did before from nights of rabble, rousing and too much fun. Well, I looked around and we all agreed, and I had a drink and I ordered 3, and I staggered back to do it all again. And we made an oath on a rum and coke with the best intention, I'm sure you know, that we would stop this living in excess. We're gonna have one more party, one more special occasion. Do it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, holidays and weekends. We can have one more party. There's more hell we should be raising. One more party now, one more party tonight.